and welcome everybody to Confidential Futures, creating a safer space for young people in New York and in Amsterdam. My name is Dion and I'm the moderator of this program. We're going to do it in English and in Dutch. There's also a translator present who will translate from Dutch to English and from English to Dutch. And I hope also a little bit of my South African in the right language. So we're going to do our best. If you have any questions or remarks, make sure you watch via Zoom. And you can get the link by clicking on the website of Pakhuis de Zwijger. And there's a reservation button. Push that button and you will get into the Zoom to have the possibility to chat with us and all the participants of this program. This event explores and showcases mechanisms to build more confidential futures for young people in Amsterdam and in New York, but also all other kinds of big cities. It focuses on the importance of creating safer spaces in cities throughout the whole world. Insights and lessons learned will be shared through a creative mix of panel discussions, but also multimedia expressions. We will have panel discussions with project researchers and local government representatives. The multimedia expressions will be done by the community youth initiatives who participated in the Confident Future program. And if you're like, okay, but what is that Confident Future program? We have a short video to give you a little bit more insights about the project, which is kicked off in 2019.
One of the lacrosse players. From Supreme Court. This is it right here.
So what is it that you want to make happen? That's already a question for the research. And then the other question is, how are you making it happen?
To make it important what they have to say and what they make, I was really impressed by what that does to me, and I can only imagine what that does to children. And I think we can learn from that.
Can't let or allow anyone to stand in between you and your goals.
We have a project for youth caregivers. It's like young people that taking care of their parents if their parents are sick, for example.
We are basically a little bit what we are all doing is to empower young people. We do it through through the designing their life.
Easy is like our name. Easy, simple solutions for challenging problems or social issues.
Women inspire girls, girls inspire women.
We've been talking a lot since yesterday, and we're trying to figure out the same things. We're trying to figure out how to deal with identity and politics and community and activism. And I think that we're like in the same vein in terms of dealing with those issues. And we understand that there's an overall like contextual.
Make it to our function. So we just tell them like, if you can come to class at 4:30, you're more than welcome. And some of the girls have other extracurricular activities outside of girls' club that they
Okay. Well, that was nice to look back at. Okay, first of all, I'm going to welcome our first panel, which will be the research team from New York University and the University of Amsterdam. Great to have everybody here present in the studio, but also via Zoom. At the table we have Anita Hardon and Nastasia Roels. And via Zoom we have Reina Rapp, Helena Hansen, Melissa Maldonado Salcedo, and Amaryllis Estrella. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Well, are the people of New York, are you awake already or? Say, hey! That's not a real warm New York welcome. Can you say, hey?
Hey!
Yes, okay. That's how I met you guys.
Great to be here.
Great, nice to see you. Well, Nastasia and Anita, great for having you here in the studio. Anita, I'm going to start with you because you are one of the principal investigators of the Confident Future project. Can you maybe shortly explain something about the project?
Yeah, thank you. Well, we developed the idea together with Helena Hansa and Reina Rapp, who are there. And the idea was, as anthropologists, we were very interested in innovations from below, the way people innovate, meet demands in particular places, and the kinds of care practices that they develop. And we chose Confident Futures as a topic. I had been working on youth before, and we thought future and confident in the future is a kind of key core theme for young people. So that's how it started. And we developed this methodology. Maybe we'll get back to that later.
Well, where can you tap a little bit into the methodology?
So the idea was that we would identify the techniques and mechanisms through which organizations that have self-organized kind of try to achieve those confident futures. So that was the initial aim. And we intended to develop the way we would do the project together with the different organizations that we selected because of their kind of their success in achieving confident futures. So their kind of apparent success. And what you see in the pictures, are they there now? No, what we saw in the video is how then together with these organizations, we developed this framework for how we were going to study this. And you were at the meeting, and we talked to each other about what are you doing, how does it work, and based on that we tried to build a model, which is the way we work. So we don't start with an outside model, we start with the model of the organizations with whom we're working and with whom together we are learning.
Okay, thank you. There were also two ethnographers. Nastasia, you're one of them. And let me see, Amaryllis from the New York University, you are the other ethnographer. Maybe Nastasia, for the people at home, what is an ethnographer?
What's an ethnographer? Well, we do research by, I think Anita already said, we really work from bottom up. So the idea is to experience and really observe and participate in the lives of everyday lives of people and to learn through that experience. So it's like experiential learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Amaryllis, welcome. Can you tell me a little bit more about the focus that you and especially Nastasia had during this project?
Hi, everyone. And I just want to say that Melissa Mel Maldonado Salcedo, who's also on the call, was an additional ethnographer. So I had the joy of working with Mel very closely here in New York. And as ethnographers, I think some of the most interesting parts and exciting parts of the work was to really get to meet and work with the community researchers directly. And we worked very closely with the researchers at each organization and really supported them in the development of their research projects, and especially thinking about what does it mean to do ethnography? How do you conduct ethnographic research? So for us, I think that was one of the really key pieces that allowed us to connect very closely with the researchers on the ground and see how they took ownership of the project, how they identified the key mechanisms that they wanted to highlight, and to really start thinking about what do young people need and what do they identify as some of the ways that they can create safe spaces and that allow them to be creative, to identify their talents, and to feel recognized and connect with one another. So I think for us, that was it was very powerful to be able to do that work, and especially in the context of a global pandemic, which is not, we started beforehand, but by the time we really got into this project, we were seeing how our researchers were really trying to figure out how to do this in the context of a global pandemic. and anti-racist activism that they were themselves conducting. So I think, very briefly, those are some of the most exciting parts of this work that we were able to do.
And Amaryllis, you already spoke real briefly about the key elements and the mechanisms. Can you tell a little bit more about them?
Yeah, so we have, as Anita started saying, we really work with the community researchers to identify what are some of the key mechanisms. Sometimes we call them themes as well, that you're seeing in your community organizations that really allow young people to thrive, to feel connected to their communities. And so there were a series of mechanisms that were identified, but as you see, the title of this event is Creating Safer Spaces. And so we wanted to highlight how safe space in some ways allows young people to then extend into these other forms of mechanisms to also identify. So creativity, connectivity, family and community engagement, looking at intergenerational connections that allow them to create bonds in their communities. Recognition, feeling that they're being recognized for their work. So these were just some of the mechanisms that were being identified by the researchers as they were observing their organizations at work.
Okay, thank you. Mel, you were one of the researchers, right?
Yes.
On the ground.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you identified those mechanisms?
Well, it was very inspirational to see it up close and personal. And I think that for a lot of us as storytellers, ethnographers, we weren't necessarily prepared to really get the full breadth of it. But when we started seeing it, it was just so dynamic, right? Because we started seeing these young people really forge ahead in the midst of a lot of challenges and being resilient and having these conversations where they're connecting dots that perhaps get overlooked. It was really something that for us, as we were trying to tell this story, it just kept getting bigger and bigger in our minds because we were thinking about how it started in just one idea and then actually see it come into fruition with these young people in the field and really changing the world. It was remarkable.
Thank you so much. Nastasia, Safe Space emerged very early on during the research of this project. It's a real important feature and factor. Can you tell us why it's so important factor?
Well, I think safe space, what's interesting and maybe also how we thought about today, also using it as one of the main themes, is that in each of in cities across the world, I think, in order to work with young people, in order to really open up and really hear their experiences and also hear what challenges are faced, it's important that people feel comfortable and seen. And I think it's not only, when we hear the word safe space or space, we think very physically. Like right now, we're in a safe space, you have shelter, and I think that's a basic need for all humans. But it's beyond that. It's also, it's psychosocial. It's also about, and I think that's what a lot of our organizations, our partners, the 9 youth initiatives that we work with, have really created, is a connection for young people to feel safe, physically, but also in relation to people. So it's also inherent in a red thread across all the organizations, for example, is really the coaches, the role models, the peer-to-peer kind of activities. And it's in that relationship that a familiarity is formed or a sense of security in a more psychological and social sense. And that's so essential in order to have impact and to start listening, really deep listening, I think,
Did you also came across certain techniques that the different youth initiatives used to create a safe space?
Yes, so quite a lot. We're writing a whole paper on it, so it's on multiple layers. But the techniques, I think it's important also in knowing who do you want in the room, for example. I don't know what a correct word is. We sometimes refer to filtering, but it's also just like choosing, like making sure that people feel comfortable in this space, and therefore really thinking, okay, what is the theme for today? Who do we want to create the space for? So to really make sure that they feel safe to discuss whatever theme it is. So who are we going to invite? So I think that's very important. That was one technique when it comes to, I think Easy Solutions does that very well, also with the Academy X for the women, where you really create a safe space for young women to meet and to discuss certain issues, and women of color as well, and where there aren't that many spaces in Amsterdam to do that. So I think that's one technique.
Maybe Amaryllis or Mel can add something about different techniques that you both saw during the research.
For me, creativity is the strongest one, because there was creativity in the work that they did. They had to adapt rather quickly given the pandemic. But then they were also using creativity almost like a therapeutic, because not only were many of the groups providing, food or check-ins, they gave them art supplies. So they allowed them to also connect to expressions that really speak to creativity as something that underscores everyone's work on this project.
And Mel, can you tell me a little bit more about creativity? Because often some words are used like container begrippen. Okay, maybe in English.
A container concept.
Container concept. Okay,
it works.
So creativity, connectivity, safe space. But what does creativity means in this context?
Well, there's a couple of meanings, right? Because there is their ability to channel and express what was happening, right? And see it visually in the art that they were creating, right? But then there's the creativity of just thriving in the midst of such structural oppression, right? And when there's so many challenges and adversity, still being able to see a future where you are able to own your own story and make it happen. So for me, creativity, as I say, that it underscores everybody's work. Even as ethnographers and researchers, we became creative also. It was almost like infectious for us, because we started first just with writing down ideas, and then you're like newsletter, then meetings. So it was happening all at the same time. So it was above everything, I just think, inspirational. So I can't divorce those two things, creativity from inspiration.
Okay, thank you so much. And Amaryllis, what is it for you?
So as you heard Nas mentioning, and Mel, we've been working on several research papers that are based on the techniques and the mechanisms that have been developed. And so for me, the one that I've been, digging deeper into is connectivity. And so a lot of what came of that process was understanding how are community organizations really connecting to young people, but also to the communities themselves, to the families, to folks in the community. And so I got to really explore that with the researchers, and there were things that were very interesting to see in the context, again, of the pandemic, because there were new ways that they had to connect. And so a lot of what we were talking about was, well, what does it look like to now connect on Zoom? And as you can see, we're on Zoom right now, right? So what does it look like to continue to build relationships when the ways that you have done that are not the same anymore? And so it was really important for us to really work through what does it look like to have programming for young people online, but also when do we also give ourselves permission to disconnect? Because there was so much going on, there was so much pressure to continue to work in the ways that we were before, that there was also a lot of fatigue, there was a lot of exhaustion that young people, that community organizers, that the organizations were feeling. And so it was also a moment to capture what does it look like to disconnect. And so for me, that was one of the more interesting things to really have to put down on paper after discussing with community researchers.
Thank you. Helena, you are one of the principal investigators as well. Can you explain a little bit why it's so important to have a knowledge sharing between the University of New York and the University of Amsterdam?
Sure, thank you. One of the most exciting parts of this project for me has been the opportunity to learn from our colleagues in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands. From the very beginning, even crafting this proposal, the techniques that our University of Amsterdam colleagues used for grant writing involving taking a retreat and writing together in person, that was a real eye-opener for me. I want to acknowledge that the Netherlands has a very, very different history and political and economic system than the US. And so some people would say, oh, why do a research project where you're somehow comparing two such different societies? You know, the Netherlands having, at this point in time, a much stronger sense of a social welfare state and direct government investment and youth development than in the US. In the US, philanthropy and relying on donors and community volunteerism is a very strong tradition, particularly when it comes to youth programs. So these are very, very different contexts, and including the context of social inequalities. So there are parallels, but in the Netherlands, there is a lot of discussion and debate around immigration, which we have also in the US, but it takes its own particular form. Religion, particularly Muslim communities, which we also have in the US, but in a particular American form. So there are a lot of differences, but at the same time, what we were able to do with a comparative study was, number one, get over our ethnocentrism in the US and acknowledge how much we have to learn from, for example, social design as a concept in Amsterdam. It's even permeated in city government supported projects, something that isn't as well established in the US. And you're going to see some examples of that today. We also, with COVID, we were able to see how differently the two societies responded, and the youth organizations and the two societies responded. So in the Netherlands, where social basic needs, you know, just basic needs of protective gear, food, housing, those are a little bit more secure and accounted for by local governments. In Amsterdam, there is more attention perhaps to social networks and support, to the more nuanced ways that social inequalities manifested under COVID, such as disproportionate law enforcement with regard to COVID-related curfews in Black, brown, Muslim neighborhoods. In the US, what we saw was youth organizations really stepping out front and being direct service providers, raising money, raising donations for food, for protective gear, helping people to cope with their housing issues. So we were able to see a very strong community mobilization and donor network. And so even that comparison really heightened our awareness of the wide range of things that youth organizations can do as first-line responders. And then I also want to briefly mention that one of the first things that we saw when we came together in person in Amsterdam before COVID, so when you saw video shots of our first meeting, joint meeting in New York City, where we brought our Amsterdam colleagues to meet with us, Easy Solutions opened up their presentation with an image of Malcolm X. And that was the first time I realized that X Academy referred to Malcolm X, and it opened my eyes to the ways that the Black Power movement and civil rights movement in the United States may be taken up and adapted in other places. And that was really exciting. So that's to my second point, which is about translation and adaptation. So what you're going to see today are some print techniques, some mechanisms by which youth organizations support and cultivate better futures for youth. The point is not for any organization watching to take a program wholesale and plop it in their city, in their community. It's actually for us to learn from each other elements that we can translate and adapt to our own context. So that illustrates another principle of this project, that we're really not after scaling up, which is a term that I hear a lot in social service and health service fields. It's not that we want to take something that can be scaled up and applied across the board. It's that we want to creatively adapt and translate from one context to another. And so having two cities was really, really important for underscoring how that might be done. Last thing I'll say is that we've already begun through this project to develop an international network of youth leaders and youth organizations. And that's, to me, very, very exciting. So the moment of Zoom and COVID-related virtual meetings has made that even easier. It was beginning to happen before COVID, but now I can see a real path forward for our developing international network, which hopefully will go beyond the US and the Netherlands at some point.
Thank you so much for this explanation and your thoughts on the differences but also the power of collaborating between New York City and Amsterdam. Thank you, Helena. We also have Reina in the Zoom, but you're going to be my sidekick throughout the whole program via Zoom. But I do have one question for you, which came in via the chat. So Reina, did you find that youth received support from people who look like them and share similar backgrounds? And when they left that space, how may they ultimately help these youth feel a sense of belonging and safety within?
That's a wonderful question. You know, Mel has already nabbed the word inspiration, so I'll just add on to that. I think that young people being able to be mentored and supported and part of a very strong network with a real kind of history of supporting one another have really developed what the name of our project portends, which is Confident Futures. There is a lot of self-confidence that we see in the young people who have been active participants in their community organizations, and then, therefore, in relation to the much more heterogeneous and sometimes terribly oppressive and very complicated worlds into which they are then, you know, interpolated or engaged or end up in schools, in jobs, in all sorts of other community outreach projects. I think they take with them a kind of confidence and a belief in their own kind of rootedness and their ability to turn to others when they need help. And that, it seems to me, is so enormously important.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, research team from New York. We will not see you anymore during this program, but we will stay in contact for sure. And Reina, like I said, you're my sidekick during this program via Zoom. Anita, you're my sidekick during this program here in the studio, so I will come back to you with other questions. Nastasha, thank you very much for your explanation and thoughts on especially safe space.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
So, to make everything that has been discussed a little bit more tangible, we have some short impressions. Some will be through multimedia and some will be by a presentation. And the first presentation will be from my colleague and partner in crime, Jemil Yilmaz, about Academy X.
Thank you, Dion. Hello, I'm Jemil Yilmaz from EASY. We are social entrepreneurs and we provide simple solutions for social issues, especially on racial and social equality or inequality. One of our most important things that we do is that we are busy on the topics like anti-Black racism, anti-Muslim racism, but also like racial profiling, labor market and educational participation and segregation. Important thing of what we do is giving back to the communities we come from. So all our own activities and events, and our training, coaching and individual guidance for communities of color and starting social and cultural entrepreneurs is always for free, because we believe that we have to give back to the communities we come from. And one of our projects of the way we give back is called Academy X. They just told it's inspired on Malcolm X and his work on civil and social justice. On Academy X, it's an academy that we have made for communities of color and especially organizations, but also individuals from the communities, and we help them to combat with exclusion mechanisms, but also to help them to be self-resilient and independent, and to help their own community in their emancipation process within Dutch society. One of the Academy X's we organized was for young adults between the ages of 16 and 35. That is what I'm going to talk about during this presentation. And forgive me for my stone cold English. Dion is always laughing because of my accent, but I'm doing my best. Well, this is one of the pictures. We have done a lot of different Academy X's, for example, for the Afro-Dutch community, but also for the Turkish or the Moroccan community here in the Netherlands. This is one especially for young girls, young adults and girls for within the public debate. Key elements of this Academy X were creating a safe space and to empower and to invest in the identity development of those young girls with a like-minded group. And one of our key elements was to promote economic independence and, like I earlier said, resilience and self-determination. And one of the most important things was to strengthen their position within the public debate. I know America and or the States and the Netherlands are not the same, but what you see in the Netherlands, that there is a lot within the public debate there is a lot spoken about certain groups within society, but and not with them. So we help them to gain their position within the public debate, and we help them strengthen their own network by creating young role models. Oh, doet het niet. Techniek. Volgende. Thank you. The target group for this Academy X was between the ages of 18 and 30 years old. 40% of our participants was between the ages of 17 and 23, and 60% was between the ages of 24 and 30 years. And if you look at the educational background, about a quarter had a academic background, and a quarter a higher education. And yeah, I don't know what the MBO is. Does anyone know?
Vocational education.
A what?
Vocational education.
Well, thank you, Dion.
Yeah.
A vocational education, 52% of the participants. Mag ik? Oh ja, heel goed. Thank you. I think that one of the most important thing is, because I only have a few minutes, so the added value for the young women who participated on Academy X is, well, sometimes they say that behind a successful man is a strong woman, and often these women are not visible, while they do have clear vision and or opinion. So our project was to make those young women visible and to give them tools for shaping, articulating and sharing their own vision and opinion. And also to give them a voice and reclaiming their position within the public debate. And we did it by putting role models that are already active in the public debate in contact with these young women. And it was not only about knowledge gathering, but it was also learning from each other and to contribute to the personal development and the network of the participants. Well, yeah, this is a real short. Is like what we always do is to evaluate all the different Academy X's we organize. So we always, how do you say, keep innovate and improve our own projects. So, and what we saw is that they are rated on a 5-point scale. They rated the different trainers and the parts of the academy really well. Maybe a short one of the lessons learned. It is not our lessons learned as easy, but the lessons learned from the participants. It's really different. For the one was how they can expand their own network and how they can do the best make of their own voice heard, but also look ahead, like to check in, and before they go somewhere that they know what they are going to get or going to bring, and before leaving possibly provide feedback instead of taking it as a burden. I think for us, like, how do you say, self-reflection and self-improvement is one of the most important key elements, and to make them beware of themselves as a person, and then as an individual, then as a professional, and to learn them to channelize their own strength, their identity and ambition towards something constructive and positive for them. And I think that that is also one of the most, how do you say, distinguishing parts of Academy X, what we organize. Our own lessons learned, and I think that's the most important for a confident future. A safe space and nurturing is really important, and I think that that is also one of the two of the most important things that we also saw in the different projects of our colleagues in Amsterdam, but also in New York. And every time we see that there is an enormous need, in this case for a sisterhood, sometimes for a brotherhood, and what we always see is that you really need a whole village to raise a child, not only childs anymore, but also to raise adults, young adults, and to make them the next role models for the generations who are now growing up. Well, I hope with that I can end my stone cold English presentation.
You did a good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Jem. Yeah. No, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anita, did you see certain things from Easy Solutions that also were visible with the other youth initiatives?
Yes. I think it's wonderful to see how you create opportunities for women, men, to have role models, to connect to others. So it fits with the theme of connectivity. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the safe space where you can be together. And I know also that after the trainings, people stay in touch.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of connectivity horizontally, but it's also creating the links to others who can be role models, but also can be resources.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. So we're also going to watch a short video from, which is a showcase of the Lower East Side Club.
My name is Brianna. I've been a part of the Girls Club for about 8 years, almost 9. So we're just a nonprofit organization here to serve our girls and our community. We serve girls from 5th through 12th grade. We offer all types of programs based in a community where it's predominantly low-income housing, and we welcome with open arms. And I've been working on the Confident Futures project for about 2 years now. Just sharing and comparing mechanisms to ensure healthy and confident futures for our youth.
Hello, my name is Arlene, and I've been a part of the Girls Club for about 6 years now. I've also been helping with the Confident Futures project for about a year now. And we've been doing various reports. We've also been conducting a lot of interviews and collecting data, evolving the themes that and the mechanisms that we've been discussing this past year.
I think the Girls Club is more than just an after school. I think the Girls Club is an opportunity for success. When I think of Girls Club, I think of Girls Club as a big family that is the most supportive family and the nicest family and the most welcoming people, and I think the Girls Club is a safe space for young women to grow as people, because I know that if I wasn't in the Lower East Side Girls Club, I really don't know what I would be doing, you know, because the Lower East Side Girls Club helped me grow into a young adult that makes responsible choices and that wants a future, because the Girls Club did nothing but motivate me to do better and to tell me that if whatever I put my mind to, that I can do anything.
Mechanism that we felt really resonated with us is connectivity.
We have people, volunteers who are based in the community come out to give back to their own community, building bonds, building long-time friendships. Besides being a part of, the Girls Club family, I am from the neighborhood that they currently are located in. So not only am I connected through my workplace, I'm connected in general because I currently reside in the Lower East Side. So when we do the food pantry, I see a lot of my neighbors or people who see me in the neighborhood and don't really know what I do. And when they come to Girls Club and I give them food or the boxes, they kind of look at me like, oh my God, like you work here, like this is so amazing. So it's a good feeling to help out, because I know whenever they need something as far as information on the food pantry, they'll come straight to me because they see me in the neighborhood.
Well, connectivity means to me to keep in touch with the people in the community, especially if you're taking space in a place where girls are actively coming from that neighborhood. It's important to give back to that neighborhood and understand the needs of the neighborhood. So to constantly keep that relationship going between the girls and the neighborhood and the Girls Club.
I was born and raised here all my life. Having a Girls Club here in the Lower East Side benefits these girls so much for so many reasons. There's a lot of families that live there that never left the Lower East Side. Like this is all they know, Being in the Girls Club, it expands their horizons. They take them to Camp Fowler, they go to New Orleans, they go to Chiapas, Mexico. I mean, that's an opportunity in a lifetime that a lot of parents here can afford to do. So having a Girls Club is a major impact for these young girls in our community. And also everything's free, so that's a big major plus. We're mentors to these young girls. Like I've been here for 20 years, and when I first started, I have girls still calling me. So they say they're young ladies now with professions, and they call me now, and I know that I did something good by them telling me what they still have that memory and learn something that they still carry on.
Oh, that was amazing showcase from the Lower East Side Girls Club. Thank you so much. This is the second panel with participating organizations. And first of all, I want to go to Brianna and Darlene, because you both are from the Lower East Side Girls Club. Yeah, a big hand for them. Woohoo! So, Brianna or Darlene, please tell us a little bit more. How was it to make this video?
A little nerve-wracking because our program, we have a lot of documentation of what we do and what we did way before I even got here. So it was hard to even try to figure out what we can show and what best represents us and the mechanisms that we've been practicing. So I think just finding the right way to show that to you guys was the hardest part of this.
Well, I think you guys did a real good job. So thank you. Darlene, what were the other things that you wanted to showcase but couldn't do because of a lack of time?
Well, we conducted I think over 25 interviews. So a lot of the videos weren't included in the video, but I think as you can tell from the video, we tried to be very selective with the people we asked questions to. A lot of them were Girls Club alumni, and I think we wanted to highlight that because it just shows that Girls Club stays connected with the girls even after the program ends and they are no longer eligible for the program. And we just really try to push the idea that you can stay connected to us. We're always there for you. We're always here to serve you. Even if you're not even in the community anymore, you always have a safe space and a home at Girls Club.
So one of the mechanisms that you focused on was connectivity, but one of the researchers in the first panel, they also explained a little bit more how to disconnect. Can you give us an insight how you both try to disconnect at some times during the COVID pandemic and using Zoom to stay in contact?
It was so hard, especially being an organization where we're so hands-on and having girls come in and, again, being hands-on and getting them enthusiastic and hype about the program. I think COVID took all of that away from us, especially teaching dance or something in that nature on Zoom. It's really hard, especially with middle school, because they don't want to turn on their cameras or they've been sitting in front of a screen for 8 hours during school and they're just completely checked out by the time they get to us, but they do come. So we're very grateful. But it's hard stepping back as a participant, alumni, and an instructor to actually see what's going on and how what I do and what we do as a whole affects them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Darlene, are you an alumni as well? Or I knew Brianna is one, but are you one as well?
Yes, I joined in my freshman year of high school, and I'm now an instructor. I do a couple of programming at Girls Club.
So Brianna was like, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about the transition that you made as a participant towards being an instructor, and how can that help your position in relation to the girls who come to your club?
I think it helps that I had previously known a lot of the girls. Although a lot of the girls that joined Girls Club are new, there was a lot of girls that I already knew from the neighborhood, from the school that I went to in middle school. So it's just that familiarity really helped in order for me to connect better with the girls. And also just being a woman of color, I'm able to better understand the girls' struggles and just be able to let them know that they're heard and their voices are heard and all their experiences are valid.
Thank you so much. Carmen, you're on the table. You're from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam, founder of the Rambler Project. Can you tell us briefly about what the Rambler Project is?
Yeah, but first I want to thank you and the Confident Futures Project, because I met all those inspiring people and organizations, and we got the chance to strengthen the mechanism of Rambler. So at Rambler, the young people, the young rambling people, they get empowered by fashion, but first that starts with, I guess, through this project by Safe Space. And it's Safe Space in our studio in Amsterdam, but also during our online program with New York Ramblers. But that Safe Space is like not only welcoming, like daily, the young people feel at home, but it's also because of the creative program that they can do on their own way, on their personal way, and their own interest, like their own style or what they have in mind. And then they can also, on their own time, they can work with the social coach on design their life. So in real time, they build to fashion shows, for instance, and they see like...
And especially street fashion, isn't it?
Yeah, it's street fashion, yeah, because it's like their language. Mm-hmm. It's like, and if it goes through their own style, then in every rough situations they are in, it's good to, they know what they like. So that's a starting point. And with these creative coaches, we build through that to an end result. And then they see that actually going on the fashion show. Like, for instance, here you see Albertino film. And he entered with no confidence, with no concentration, not able to be on school. And like he loves talking, so he started vlogging. And he loves clothing, so he designed his missing piece. And because of that, he got like powered, and he said, okay, I want to really go back to school. And now he's doing his retail selling at ROC in Zuid. And so it's, and then, yeah, and another example is Kezia, who actually, because we got the chance to build our relationship further with Henry Street Settlement in New York through this project. And then we, in last summer, for our first time, we could do the online Rambler program.
In New York?
In New York, so that was quite exciting to
So one of the results of participating in this project is also
totally.
opening like a franchise in New York. Amazing.
Let's hope.
Okay.
Well, this year, in 2 weeks, we do the next summer edition.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this is Kezia. So that's an outcome of this 6 weeks program, in which she got confident to do the sewing. And she, in the 6 weeks, she started to make the batik and so on. Yeah. So this is, and you can see more on the of course on the Meet the Ramblers.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna check the website out.
Yeah.
Jamori, welcome. Hi, I see the big smile. It's so nice to have you here via Zoom, but still. Okay, so you're from what's the project again? Perfect City.
Yes.
The catcalling project. Can you tell us a little bit more about the catcalling project?
Yes, of course. So Perfect City was a group that me and Tiffany are a part of. We're still a part of. And it primarily focused on combating gentrification in New York City, particularly in the Lower East Side, where Girls Club is also located, and Henry Street Settlement, which we're a part of. And what we did, me and Tiffany, is we founded the Catcalling Project out of a need for the women of color in Perfect City to spearhead a project. And what we did with that is we explored safety and gentrification for women in New York City. And our work has taken us to working with women in a domestic violence shelter and exploring what safety means for them and really trying to create urban developers with them. So that's where Catcalling Project is currently. And it's really interesting what we've come up with is that we've really been able to see what safety looks like from a completely different lens than we've ever seen before, which is women who are typically not really acknowledged in New York or even in the neighborhood of the Lower East Side, but now they're getting a chance to like have their voice be on the center of everything. So it's really interesting what we've done.
So can you tell us a little bit more? How did you help the women get their problems voiced throughout the public, but also help them to express more the problems that they face?
Sure. I mean, in Perfect City, we developed a tool that's called avoidance mapping, where we have folks literally create maps of the things that they avoid constantly. And so we have these women also do that. And so what you're looking at is some of the maps that some of them have created of things that they've avoided. And one thing that we know about them is that like identity and protecting their identities is really important because they're dealing with abusers and they don't want to be discovered. So what we've decided to do is take those maps that they're created and animate them so that they can still be publicized to the public, but without their identities being revealed, which has been a really interesting tool. So we've managed to use creativity as a tool for them to use as an outlet, but also as a tool for folks to really learn more about them and their situations. When it comes to safety, what we've noticed is that like a lot of the times there's a focus on creating safe spaces, but really what we want to really focus on is how it is to navigate through spaces and how can we create safety while navigating and actively moving through a space. So what you're looking at is like the route in which they take to get to another destination, and the X's mark what they're avoiding and how complicated the route has to become because they have to avoid these little inconveniences. And what we know that safety looks different for everyone. So there's no one way to identify safety. But what we want to do is really focus on creating fair and equitable spaces for all, which means that we focus on the most marginalized people in the group.
So this looks amazing. It's like through gamification, you're trying to.
It looks just like a game.
It is.
And we really like the idea of making our animation look like a game, so that even young people, like young children, will be able to understand these maps. Not just adults or older young people.
And how did you identify the places which are marked with an X?
So what we did is we had our women actually draw out maps of their own avoidances. Wow. And so this is really just this is our early version of this. So this isn't the final project, but this is just an example of some of the work that we're doing in animation to create that. So you can see like the hand-drawn maps that they've created, but now it's becoming animated. And moving forward, we're going to be developing that further in the future with our work in the Catcalling Project and in Perfect City.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does one of you wants to add something? Brianna, Darlene, or Jamori?
I just wanted to say that that's amazing. I think like a lot of the girls from Girls Club can relate to just the idea of not being safe in their own neighborhoods and like places they have to avoid because they're going to be catcalled and stuff like that. Exactly. So yeah, I think that it's just it's a really important project to highlight.
Yeah, and working with Confident Futures has been really great with connecting with Girls Club because they're right in our neighborhood and really getting to know them, but also working with groups in Amsterdam and seeing how our work is so relatable, even though we're in completely different cities. Yeah. And it's been really inspiring for me and Tiffany because when we started the Catcalling Project, we were I was in college, and so was Tiffany. And so we're young people starting up something like this, and it's really interesting to see it be manifest this way.
You're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'm going to switch to Dutch. Aitoon, welkom.
Ja.
Fijn dat je er bent. Jij bent de oprichter van Elians Academy. Kan je wat over vertellen?
Ja, natuurlijk. Dat is een goede vertaler, dus ik doe het lekker in het Nederlands, makkelijk. Ik ben de oprichter. Als eerste wil ik gewoon bedanken om hier aan mee te doen. Hè? Dat hele programma waar we heel veel aan hebben gehad. Vooral ook de uitwisseling en andere manieren zien waar wij ook weer van geleerd hebben. En als ik dan kijk van wat wij met Elans doen, is wij coachen meiden. Wij hebben afgelopen jaar zo'n 530 meiden gecoacht. En dat doen wij in verschillende programma's. En ik zeg altijd, aandacht en liefde en begeleiding is belangrijk. Vooral omdat er gewoon heel veel meiden, dat zien we dus in alle programma's, die gewoon vanuit de omgeving niet voldoende aandacht of de juiste tools meekrijgen om verder te komen. Dus confident future is dat je kijkt naar de toekomst. Even mijn achtergrond. Ik heb heel veel in diversiteit en inclusiviteit gedaan. En daarin was het dus heel erg vanuit, maar waar zijn die? Economische onafhankelijke vrouwen willen wij. Dat ze ook in bepaalde posities aan de slag kunnen gaan. Aan het werk gaan. Dat we gelijke kans hebben. Maar dat is dan de future. Maar hoe komen we daar? En daar hebben wij dus al die programma's voor ontwikkeld. En als wij nu kijken, ik ben zelf switch een beetje van beleid en uitvoering. Dat er de beleid en uitvoering heel ook dicht bij elkaar moet komen. Dat ik vanuit heel erg beleidsdiversiteit ben begonnen. En toen dacht ik, nee, we moeten ook die uitvoering goed aanpakken. En dan is het grassroots, dat vind ik dan weer heel mooi om te kijken van vanuit het meisje, vanuit de jonge vrouw, hoe we ze versterken. Maar nu zien wij in die 10 jaar na zoveel coachingen dat we weer gewoon toch wel in het beleid komen en zien van vanuit die uitvoering, wat moeten wij, het zijn eigenlijk, ik zie dat als een systeem en dat systeem loopt ergens in vast. En in die systemen moet je aan de knopjes draaien, zodat het weer doorloopt. En
wat heb je dan geleerd aan het meedoen van dit programma, van het Confident Future programma, om dat zeg maar
wat wij zien,
te ontmantelen?
Ja, wat ik heb geleerd is dus dat je gewoon op allerlei verschillende manieren aan die knopjes kan draaien. Dat het niet één ding is wat gewoon van dit is goed of dit is fout. Maar dat het de context, het systeem eromheen heel erg belangrijk is. Als ik dan in New York kijk, is het gewoon bijvoorbeeld, wij hebben een sociaal systeem en daar is het toch heel anders. Dus dat je moet kijken van in die context, in die omgeving, wat werkt en wat niet werkt. En dat heb ik gewoon heel erg terug van geleerd. Zij werken heel veel met donoren. Wij hebben gewoon toch wel een overheid die daar gewoon in mee kan participeren. Dus dat heel erg goed is om goed te kijken vanuit welke context. Want ik weet me te herinneren vanuit van wat is je organisatie, in welk land zitten, wat zijn de regelgevingen, dat daar gewoon heel veel verschillen in zitten en dat we daar gewoon echt alert op moeten zijn hoe je je programma of je organisatie neerzet.
Nou, wat ik zelf ook heel opmerkelijk vond is dat we hebben echt een heel ander sociaal-economisch systeem, Amerika versus Nederland. Dat wisten we denk ik ook allemaal. Maar als je kijkt naar de maatschappelijke vraagstukken, die zijn heel erg vergelijkbaar. En de projecten die ontwikkeld zijn, grassroots ontwikkeld zijn, sluiten eigenlijk ook allemaal aan bij enerzijds die maatschappelijke vraagstukken en anderzijds heel erg de persoonlijke ontwikkeling van jongeren/jongvolwassenen.
Ja.
En dat komt op verschillende manieren bij elkaar.
Ja, de hoofdlijnen dat je zegt van begeleiding, rolmodellen, echt aandacht, toekomstgericht. Dat zijn wel de basiselementen. Ja. Maar daar zitten allerlei ingrediënten in die je dan net anders doet, waardoor gewoon iets heel moois uit ontstaat. En daar zie ik wel heel erg vanuit ook Amsterdam, zie ik gewoon een aantal organisaties waar wij samen mee gewerkt hebben. Het gaat wel om van we moeten meiden, jongeren versterken, maar net anders wat dan weer werkt in dat context. En dat is wel echt heel erg belangrijk, wat ik heb ervaren ook met New York.
Okay, voordat we naar het derde panel gaan, wil ik even de mensen uit New York nog bedanken en Carmen natuurlijk ook. So before we'll go to the next panel discussion, I want to thank, let me see, Brianna and Darlene from the Lower East Side Girls Club. Thank you so much for participating. And Jamori from Perfect City with the catcalling project. Thank you so much, and we're staying in touch. Carmen van Rambler Project, Rambler. Dank je wel voor je aanwezigheid en het delen van kleine inzichten die jullie hebben opgedaan. En Aytoun, we gaan van jou gaan we een korte video zien van hoe komt het nou, hoe werkt het in de praktijk?
Er is een prachtige uitspraak met een all right. Voor vrouwen die elkaar niet helpen, is a special place in hell.
dit is het natuurlijk leuk om 10 jaar Elans zichtbaar te maken, wat we hebben gedaan. En dat we de netwerk van Elans daarbij kunnen betrekken. Dat die zichtbaar zijn en dat zij eigenlijk allemaal hetzelfde zeggen. Hoe belangrijk het is om een netwerk te hebben. Hoe belangrijk het is om je vrouw te kunnen voelen. En hoe belangrijk het is om elkaar daarin te helpen, te steunen. Om verdere stappen te kunnen nemen.
Als je ambitieus bent en je wil iets in het leven, moet je ook gul zijn. Je moet andere mensen voor laten gaan. Je moet andere mensen hun succes gunnen. En je moet het ook aandurven om af en toe in andermans schaduw te gaan staan. Want daar is niks mis mee. Een netwerk opbouwen, dat betekent vooral vrienden maken. Zorgen dat dat mensen ook een reden hebben om van je te houden. Het lukt alleen maar als jij ook heel veel van andere mensen houdt. Dus op het moment dat een netwerk alleen nog maar ten dienste staat van carrière maken of scoren, dan heeft het geen betekenis. Is het ook zo weer weg.
Ja, ik loop stage bij Elans. Vorig jaar heb ik ook al stage gelopen bij Elans. Het is mijn 2e jaar hier. Ik coach jonge meiden. Vorig jaar coach ik 2 meiden van 13 en eentje van 14 jaar. Zij durfde dan bijvoorbeeld niet tegen haar moeder bepaalde dingen te vertellen. En hadden we dat gesprek geoefend samen van oké, hoe ga je dat nu aanpakken? Hoe ga je dat gesprek beginnen met je moeder? En hoe reageer je nou als iemand er niet meteen in meegaat? Of hoe reageer je nou als iemand zegt van nee, hier wil ik het niet over hebben of zo. En op een gegeven moment had ze dan dat gesprek was geweest en ja, dat vond ik dan heel leuk. Want dan dacht ik, je hebt hier echt wat van geleerd en je had echt wat aan wat we hadden geoefend of zo. Dus met zulke kleine dingen kun je wel heel erg blij zijn, merk ik dan. Dat je in die coaching gewoon kleine vooruitgangen boekt of ziet dat iemand zich echt meer openstelt naar je. Of dat je inderdaad na een aantal weken merkt van oh, je vertelt me echt alles. Of ik voel echt dat we een vertrouwensband hebben of zo. Dat, ja, ik weet niet, dat vind ik ook wel heel erg mooi altijd om te zien.
Yeah, sorry, I needed to switch to English again. This is a short video from Elans. Thank you so much, Aitun. And now we're going to see a short showcase from, let me see. Oh yeah, Perfect City, catcalling project.
Issue. You'll find that brown women across the world are most affected by displacement, and that it's really interesting research that I would love to go into deeper, but that's a whole other.
We asked this question about what would cities look like if they were more inclusive of people like us, if we were in the position of being city planners.
Or rather, what would the city look like if we could take away the things that we are constantly avoiding?
Yes. Now, here's our water. Catcalling. Yeah. Jamori and I started the catcalling project kind of to show what it was for us to just experience the city as women of color, what sort of things we avoid and where we felt safe exactly. And then we decided to expand it to more marginalized communities. And then we started working with domestic violence survivors. And that's where we are right now. And right now what we're trying to do with the catcalling project is put women in positions of power so that way they can see themselves as planners of the city. Their voices are important too. And given their lived experience, sort of putting them in a position where they can contribute to just making a safer, more inclusive environment for them.
We actually are going to be doing a group event on site for women where we're going to copy some of the packets since we're running low on those and give them art supplies, but we're actually going to do it kind of in conjunction with, since Denim Day is next week. So we thought that we would do kind of a catcalling project. Let's do our kind of, safe city projects, but also let's learn a little bit about what Denim Day is and sexual assault awareness. And so, so our plan is we're trying to firm up a date right now, but our plan is now that we can do at least small groups in our community room to actually set a time that the women can get together with our case managers and actually have some community time to work on their projects. So that's our goal.
Wow.
If we can't get it done by next week, which is Denim Day is next week, then definitely by the following week. So because it's still then kind of in that time frame. So, and then Mother's Day is there too.
So avoidance can look different for everyone. And so we basically have them draw a map of a time, place when they had to avoid something. And then after that map is completed, we discuss it. We have folks share out their maps, and then we talk about what avoidance is.
How we map the city is also interesting because it's a visual way to sort of see where everything intersects, like safety, gentrification, policing, city planning, like all of those things, displacement even. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's why we were so into mapping and including people in drawing their perceptions and their experiences of the city. Yeah.
That's really nice. Thank you. Yeah, Reina's like, yoo-hoo. Reina, can I ask you a small question? How do you see the working mechanisms in these both showcases?
Well, I was so blown away by all the presentations. I've watched this project and been part of it for both years, and it still continues to astonish and to inspire me. There is a level, Jamori said it best right in the beginning, of creativity. Mel said creativity and inspiration, put those two words together. The, catcalling safer spaces mapping exercise and its potential to spread and to actually amplify the voices of women under very, very vulnerable situations, just tremendously important. Looking at all the videos has been and presentations has been such a wonderful reminder of the rich layers that each and every organization and all of our community researchers have worked at, have uncovered. There is so much going on. Nice. I've got a lot more to say, but I don't want to hog all the work.
No, because we have more presentations. So keep a little bit secret for us. We're gonna listen to more presentations and watch some more videos. But Anita, I want to ask you as well. What kind of, in which way do you see certain mechanisms come back during the showcases that we presented already?
Yeah, I think one of my learning experiences was that when we started this project, we thought that Confident Futures, what's so important is to have peers. And what we've seen is that so many of the organizations, Lower East Side Girls Club, Elance, they actually work in an intergenerational framework, which also means a longer term framework. So older girls coach younger girls. Alumni become the instructors. So it's a whole process. It's a kind of long-term intergenerational support mechanisms. Brianna, she's still there, yes, Brianna. I was so struck also by what you said about kind of growing into being a provider for the community, bringing those boxes of food to the community and being recognized for that. So it's really a long-term intergenerational connectivity.
Yes. And it helps in the recognition.
Yeah, and it also provides recognition when you can take on that role.
Yeah, of course.
I know Elance also works with the small, and they grow up, and then they can be connected to other role models and become role models. So we need to take those longer-term processes.
So you're talking about role models, and that helps me to make a bridge to the next presentation that we have from the women from Girls Connect, Selwa and Nesreen.
Wat opvallend is dat er heel veel aanbod is. Het gaat om vrije tijdsbesteding voor jongens, Nieuw-West. En voor meiden was er vrij weinig. Je zag toch dat de meisjes op de veldjes in de wijk een beetje aan de kant stonden, niet durfden mee te doen. En op die manier zijn we eigenlijk bij zaalvoetbal terechtgekomen. Ook bewust in een zaal. Een veilige setting waar de meiden vrijheid kunnen bewegen. En je ziet ook dat er gewoon enorme talenten rondlopen.
Dan hebben we de Mokro Gang, Manna, Safa, Dunja.
Mijn motivatie en mijn drijfveer is eigenlijk om deze meiden gewoon optimaal te laten ontwikkelen op alle vlakken eigenlijk. En dat ze opgroeien als sterke vrouwen. Vrouwen die weten wat ze willen en hun grenzen kunnen aangeven. En niet laten bepalen eigenlijk door de omgeving.
Ja, we geven voetballen, maar het draait echt niet alleen maar om voetbal. Dat is wat ik juist zo mooi vind aan deze organisatie. En dat is waarom ik ook liever bij Amazoni trainingen geef dan bijvoorbeeld bij een vereniging. Je bereikt veel meer met de meiden. Het is een hele andere band die je met ze hebt dan wanneer je echt op een vereniging alleen zit, zeg maar.
Bedankt voor het kijken naar een deel van onze documentaire. Mijn naam is Selwa El Mazouni, oprichter van El Mazouni Coaching en Sportbegeleiding en medeoprichter van Girls Connect. In 2013 zijn wij begonnen met laagdrempelige zaalvoetbaltrainingen in Slotervaart. Dat is eigenlijk begonnen vanuit de behoefte van de meiden die aangaven dat ze weinig aansluiting konden vinden bij activiteiten in de buurt. Inmiddels zijn we uitgegroeid tot een meiden-expertisecentrum en zien we wekelijks 200 meiden. 200 unieke meiden. We zijn niet alleen een zaalvoetbalorganisatie, maar we bieden daarnaast nog veel meer. We organiseren themabijeenkomsten en richten ons op talentontwikkeling. Wat onze kracht en succesfactor is het creëren van een vertrouwensband met de meiden. Op die manier krijg je ze binnen, krijg je te horen wat er speelt, wat de hulpbehoeften zijn. En kan je eigenlijk een meisje in haar kracht zetten en kan je ontdekken wat haar talenten zijn. Want vaak hebben we het over kwetsbare meiden die weinig tot niets kunnen. Maar wij zien dat die meiden heel veel talent bezitten. En wij proberen dat in de praktijk te onderzoeken wat het dan is. Ook bieden wij peer-to-peer coaching aan. Al de meiden die bij ons werkzaam zijn, die zijn ooit begonnen als deelnemer. Een mooi voorbeeld hiervan is Nisrin, die naast mij staat. Die wat gaat vertellen over het programma.
Dankjewel. Ik ben Nisrin Mathiaal, coördinator meidenwerk bij Amazoni Coaching en Sportbegeleiding. Ik ben in 2013 inderdaad begonnen als een van de deelnemsters bij Selwa. En inmiddels opgegroeid als coördinator. Ik ben een van de medewerkers die de meiden helpen elke week. Ik bied ze begeleiding aan, 1-op-1 coaching. We geven themabijeenkomsten, dragen bij hun talentontwikkeling. We doen zoveel voor de meiden en je krijgt er zoveel voor terug eigenlijk. Dat is het mooiste wat ik eraan vind. Zullen we kijken naar de rest van de documentaire?
Vroeger was meer dat mannen meer mochten doen. En dat vrouwen dat pikten gewoon. En nu zie ik wel echt dat het veranderd is. Dat vrouwen zich meer voor zichzelf opkomen.
Waardoor komt dat, denk je, dat het nu anders is?
Ik denk dat het ook een beetje verandert. Dat meer mensen voor zichzelf komen op te staan en dat ze dat dan zien. En dan ze denken van, oh, ik kan dat ook, omdat die vrouw doet dat ook en dan kan ik dat ook.
Er zijn vele mensen in de omgeving die natuurlijk nog steeds zeggen, bijvoorbeeld jongens op school, die zeggen dan, nee, ik ga werken en mijn vrouw werkt niet en ik regel dat allemaal voor haar. En zij gaat koken en zij doet de was, et cetera. Ik bijvoorbeeld denk er weer heel anders over. Want ik wil niet afhankelijk zijn van een man. Dat is het laatste, echt waar.
Je ziet dat de jongere meiden opkijken naar de oudere meiden. En de oudere meiden krijgen daarin ook echt een rol. Dus het kan zo zijn dat een ouder meisje een jonger meisje coacht. En de mentoren zelf die kunnen dan weer bij mij terecht voor ondersteuning. En op die manier groeien de meiden eigenlijk door.
Ja, uiteindelijk, ik zie ze allemaal als familie en als zusjes om ons heen. Dus, want je traint ze gewoon jarenlang, je zit zo lang bij ze op de groep. Dus die band wordt sowieso heel hecht. En ik denk dat ik daarom minder zie dat mensen uitvallen tijdens de puberteit. Selwa was een rolmodel voor mij. En zo probeer ik weer een rolmodel te zijn voor de andere meiden die ik nu train.
Was dat een Selwa?
Yes. Ja.
Oké, woe! Selwa, één vraagje.
Yes.
Wat heb jij het meeste meegenomen van dit Covenant Future Program?
Eigenlijk een bevestiging van datgene wat Anita net al aangaf, wat werkt vanuit, wat is ontwikkeld vanuit de behoeften van de meiden. Hè? Dus niet denken van ik ga een projectplan schrijven en daar jongeren naar doorsturen, maar juist met de meiden uit de wijk in gesprek gaan. Wat werkt? Wat maakt dat meiden niet aankomen bij reguliere welzijnsorganisaties? De veiligheid, hoe creëer je die? Uiteindelijk hebben wij onderzocht wat eigenlijk onze succesfactor is. Wij gingen eigenlijk maar door. We hebben nooit echt stilgestaan van waarom werkt onze aanpak? En eigenlijk door mee te doen aan dit onderzoek zijn we er eigenlijk achter gekomen dat wij duurzaam hebben geïnvesteerd in het contact. Nou, Ehlem en Nargis, die net ook in de documentaire voorkwamen, die trainen al sinds hun 7e jaar bij ons. Zijn inmiddels vrouwen van 16, 17, 18, als ik het goed heb. Nisrin idem dito. Dus we hebben eigenlijk geleerd dat het werken vanuit bottom-up goed werkt. En wij zien dat ook bijvoorbeeld bij de Girls Club in New York. We zien heel veel gelijkenissen ook. En wij zijn eigenlijk vanuit die hoedanigheid gaan groeien. En vandaag de dag zijn we ook eigenlijk gegroeid tot een meiden-expertisecentrum. Mede ook door de support vanuit jullie.
Ja, tof. Dank jullie wel.
Yes.
En ga zo door. So we're going to switch to English again. Trying to do my best. The next presentation will be from one of the participants in New York, Eva Tayo. Okay, take it away.
My name is Nyla Rock Van Loo.
My name is Tavajay Campbell.
I was kind of shy. I was an only child and I was deeply attached to my parents.
Both my parents are from Jamaica and they are true to their homeland.
At home, I was precocious. I would run around, I would dress up, I would make stories up.
I don't remember exactly how old I was when I started Ife Tayo, but I think I was around 7 or 8 years old. My mother really wanted me to be a part of something on the weekend, like to be active in doing something outside of school.
My parents decided to send me to Ife Tayo originally because they were looking for a dance program for me. I remember people being really warm and welcoming, almost excited to meet me as if they knew that I was coming and couldn't wait to have me.
There was a lot of warmth. There was a lot of brother, sister, hugs. It wasn't sterile.
Yes. So, Naima, right?
You need to put
Oh, we can't hear you. I'm so sorry. You're on mute. Can we hear you now? Yes. Yes, yes.
How are the children? I'm Naima Oyo. I'm the daughter of Kali and Joy Obaba Oyo. I'm the granddaughter of Lillian Mays and Hubert Fonville maternally. I am the granddaughter of Mary Fatima Williams and David York fraternally, descendant of those stolen Africans brought to the British colonies occupying the indigenous lands of the native people of North America. I am excited to be the Executive Director of Ifatayo Cultural Arts Academy, and I want to thank you for inviting me to talk a bit about the work we're doing with youth today and how we think about safe space. I know there's a little bit of back and forth with the PowerPoint, and so I can press on without the PowerPoint, or we can start the PowerPoint.
Okay, take it away.
Okay, here we go. So communities of color have used arts and culture as a tool to push back against inequity, racism, amplify the voices of the oppressed. We create innovative strategies to gather our community together to solve problems, build relationships, and engage in collective envisioning of a shared, more equitable future. At Ifatayo Cultural Arts Academy, we are an organization that has been created by, led by, and for people of African descent in the historically underserved communities of Brooklyn. Our programs, which were recognized by the Obama White House, are designed to empower young people and their families to reach their full potential and to become change agents for their community. At Ifatayo, we start from an African-centered perspective, really helping young people to explore who they are, where they come from, and how to see themselves. We've learned that creating a trusting environment is one of the most important pieces of a successful group. The results are higher self-disclosure, group engagement, and overall cohesiveness for all find large pieces of their roots in trust. Taking this information, all of our program is developed and delivered on our 5 organizational values. Q Joomla, which is our programs are holistic. Ubuntu, which is connectivity, that I am because we are. Ifatayo, which is love. Mbongi, which is collective decision-making. And Sankofa, which is critical reflection. Can we go to the next slide? Yes, okay. Sorry, the PowerPoint's a little bit different order than where I started. So at Ifatayo, we really look at using the technology of our ancestors to support and guide our work with youth. And with them, we create safe spaces, right? So that we are co-creating safe spaces. It's not that Ifatayo is creating this safe space and, bringing the children in. And a big part of what makes a safe space, how do we know a space is safe? It's something that is very individual, right? It's something that we know and we feel in our gut. I can't tell you that this space is safe for you. You can't tell me that this space is safe for me. And so it's definitely something that we are co-creating together. At Ifatayo, we have, if you can go to the slide that has the Kuba cloth that looks at the movement, Ifatayo's movement. So at Ifatayo, we reside in one of the most expensive cities in the world. And as a result, we have faced a lot of displacement, right? And so we're constantly looking for new space. I found ourselves constantly looking for new spaces and trying to secure permanent housing. Because our space was, our physical space, I'll say, was one that became very transient in nature. We had to really zone in and become very clear on creating space independent of this physical environment. And so you've heard a lot today already about how people kind of create safe spaces independent of a physical space. We've gotten really good at that. We have have now reached the point where we are looking at how do you use the physical space to also reinforce and create safe spaces. And so because our journey with our young people is one about identity and who are we as African people, and really exploring what it means to be a person of African descent in an environment, society, and world that is built a lot in anti-Blackness and anti-African. We are looking at space disrupting that narrative. If you can go to the next slide. Okay, I will keep pushing through. If you can go to the next slide. I'll keep pushing through. So when you look at the communities where our young people are, it says the slides. Okay. If you look at the communities where our young people are in Bedford-Stuyvesant, in Crown Heights, in Brownsville, the housing tends to be very boxy, very cold, very linear. And so that informs how you feel, right? And so now that we are looking at creating a space that disrupts that, how do you bring African culture, how do you bring our culture into the very design of the space as we kind of create these safe spaces around exploration around what it means to be an African? We worked with 15 students from Pratt Institute that looked at the Brownsville community where our next site will be. And from the very inception of the design, are looking at designing a space for youth of African descent. I really would like for you guys to see some of these other slides, but it's stuck on elements. So hopefully we'll get it onto the website. So what the students did is that they looked at color, they looked at color, they looked at texture, they looked at the movement through the space. As you move into a space, what makes it feel welcoming? It looked at introducing the idea of Africanness, right, or Africa to the young people. And so that from a much earlier point in their life, the idea of what it means to be an African person is one that is of asset, is one that is exploratory, is one that is full, is one that is rich. Because so often we know that when our young people first encounter this idea of what it means to be an African, it is one of deficit, right? That they learn that, you know, my parents or our people were slaves, and then Lincoln freed us, and then Malcolm made a speech, and now we're here, and more recently, you know, Obama became president. And so that is really the entire narrative around what it means to be an African. And so if you disrupt that and change it and back a little bit further up, or a lot further up, around what it means to be an African, the starting point, the narrative changes. And so when a young person is doing that internal exploration of identity, who am I? Who is my family? Who is my community? What does it mean to be a person of African descent? The narrative becomes one of resilience. The narrative becomes one of pride. The narrative becomes one of how amazing is it that I am standing here today in this moment, doing this work, given this 400, 500,000 year history. And so as I kind of try and loop back to the beginning, right? That as you're creating a safe space and understanding what it means to be in a safe space, you have to be able to trust your gut. You have to be able to understand who you are to know when you're in a safe space. And so that's a big part of the work that we're doing at Ifatayo, helping our young people to learn, to trust who they are using the technologies that our ancestors gave us. Thank you.
No, thank you, Naima. It's so. I was in New York, and we heard a lot about what you did with what you're doing with Ifatayo, and it's really amazing, especially the way that you teach about the power of ancestors and have knowledge about your identity, what it is to be a person with African descent, and especially in the current situation that we're living in with the Black Lives Matter demonstrations and and the cost of it. So I'm sorry that the presentation didn't really work for you, but I think really that the narrative that you tried to disrupt and explain what your power is of creating co-creating a safe space, and the things that you're doing really came true. So thank you so much, and a little bit of applause here from the studio.
Thank you.
So one quick question. Why do you think it's really important to have knowledge about your identity and the roots of your identity to have a confident future?
Yeah, I think it really just goes back to knowing yourself, right? And we co-create this world that we live in. One of our values is Ubuntu. It translates quickly into I am because you are. But when you kind of dig deeper in to the language and try and bring it into English, and we're kind of seeing this translation mix-ups that can happen or losing some of the texture, it actually ties more into my humanity or my humanness is wrapped up in your humanness, right? And so we're human together. We're human together. And so the more I understand about you, the more I understand about me, and that piece of who we are as an African people, right? Who are we as African people can only create easier, more full journeys of identity and community.
Amazing, really beautiful. Thank you so much. Also for participating during this Confident Future program. We're already came to our last panel. We're gonna be in conversation with the funders and a local government representative. I want to welcome, let me see, Jason, you are from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, one of the funders. Thank you so much for coming. And Danny, you are the Deputy Commissioner for Family Child Health from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Great. Nice to have you guys here. Welcome. Maybe starting with Jason from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Can you explain a little bit why it's so important to fund these kind of programs?
Thank you for having me on, and it's been a pleasure just to watch so many of the videos today and learn so much more about the programs. I think it's so important to fund programs and grassroots initiatives like these because, for me, at least, these programs provide a sense of hope and a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose for so many youth who have endured and who have suffered from adverse childhood experiences. And it allows for youth to see a different path for themselves and see themselves going forward in a different way. And it uses the asset-based approach as far as looking to see what they have as far as being able to develop themselves and create themselves into a new possible life.
Thank you. And did the project met your expectations?
Oh, absolutely, it did.
In what way?
For me, it was the way the project demonstrated and showed the methodology as far as trying to see how, not only how youth are trying to transform themselves, but also the bi-directional approach as far as between Amsterdam and New York are learning from each other, as far as trying to figure out how they're recreating and repurpose or redesigning youth in their lives. I think that's what made the biggest impact for me.
Thank you. Danny, can you speak to some of the needs and priorities for family child health in New York City and your office?
Absolutely. Thank you again for letting me join you today. It's been just wonderful and delightful to see all of these presentations. I support the work of Family Child Health at the Health Department. So that's everything from home visiting programs for expectant persons to visiting programs for infants and young children, School health, supporting the health and well-being of our young people as much as possible where they are, so within schools, as well as support through reproductive years through a lot of reproductive justice programming. So a lot of the early life cycles fall in our shop, and this focus of confident futures is very, very near and dear to us and our work.
In what way do you think health is connected to having a confident future?
You know, it's interesting. I think Helen mentioned earlier some of the differences between the United States or New York and Amsterdam, and some of the basic needs of that are and may not be supported in different municipalities. I think health is one of the central things for a confident future, right? In order to be in a safe space, in order to be in a safe community, in order to be in a safe family, we oftentimes think of health, and I'm a pediatrician, so I do get physical health, but it's much, much more than that. It's emotional well-being, it's connectedness, it's the ability to see oneself in possibilities, right? We talk about comfort, the ability to be uncomfortable in some ways that build towards, wait, I haven't thought about that before. Can I see myself doing that or trying that? And those are some of the key things. I think Brianna mentioned it earlier. How do we in our programming, trying to take care of the basic needs, begin to wrap our minds around how young people engage in their programming? How she said it best, how hyped they are to show up and participate. I think those are some of the big challenges and opportunities for us in government in this time.
Yes, thank you. Jason, what kind of project normally does Robert Wood Johnson Foundation fund?
Our foundation is the largest foundation in America devoted to health and healthcare. And we primarily focus on projects out of 4 buckets relating to healthy communities, transforming health and healthcare systems, leadership, and also healthy children and families. We also have a body of work out in our research evaluation and learning department. And that body of work looks at global ideas around the world and see how we can bring those ideas here into the US. And the Confident Futures Project is out of the Global Ideas team. And the global team looks at 4 focus areas as well: building trust and community power, gender equity, sustainable, equitable urban development, and well-being.
And which of the results can you use as a foundation to bring across the other project that you help with funding?
Say that one more time. Which of the resources did that?
No, which of the results?
I'm not following.
Did you? I'm sorry for my English. Did you already have the possibility to get the results of this project?
The results thus far have been the showcases and the bulletins that we've received, and the deliverables from the project. And the project is scheduled to go on to a phase 2. So there will be more results stemming from the project. So it's still in the early stages, but based off what we've seen thus far, the results, as far as seeing how it can go into phase 2 have been great.
And which of the results that you have seen so far can you use to bring across the other projects that you fund?
I would say probably the belongingness aspect, because social connectedness is very big, because social isolation and being isolated from people can have such a detrimental impact, as it could be, as analogous to having high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So the belongingness aspect out of this project, we can share, and we can tether with other areas across the foundation to show how belongingness can really make an impact on mental health and well-being.
Thank you so much for participating during this program and also helping with financing the program, because I can speak for all the projects that participated during this program. It was really, really helpful, and it gave us a lot of insights and a whole new network that we can use to build our own confident future. So thank you so much, Jason and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Thank you, Danny, for your knowledge and network and participating during this program from the municipality of New York. And we'll stay in contact for sure as well. I'm going to Reina. Are you still there?
I am.
Okay, so we have two more showcases, but I was thinking to tap into your mind real quickly. What do you think for so far?
So far, this is, again, so amazing. Having followed step by step every part of this project, I'm still blown away when you put all the pieces together. And we so look forward to additional research that can be collaborative and shared, in which the communities themselves figure out which mechanisms have worked that could be perhaps gifted and shared and used together across different organizations. So that's part of it. I also want to say, I don't want to take up too much time here, but Naima, thank you so much for talking about collective envisioning. I think that's what this project is about. I think we are looking for very grounded ways from the dailiness of activities that people engage in, mentoring, network building, the idea, Anita spoke to this, that the things we are discovering are deeply intergenerational, whether they be at the level that Naima and Ifitayo talked about rootedness, or they be about how you train alums of a specific program to take on new forms of leadership. We are seeing that kind of connectivity here everywhere. And that's the most exciting part of it. I think I'm going to stop now. I have oodles more to say, but I don't want to take over.
Thank you so much, Reina. We're gonna go to the last presentation of tonight, and that will be from WETCO.
Hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So good afternoon and good evening to everybody. My name is Mario Fonte, and today I'm going to be presenting my research that I've been conducting for approximately the last 5 months at the Women's Housing and Economic Development Corporation. So also known as WECO, the focus of my research was on their after-school programming. However, WECO does much more than just that, with their constant efforts on helping the people of the Bronx receive affordable housing, proper childcare, and even starting small businesses. Located within the Bronx, WECO has lived by the motto of building a greater Bronx. And throughout my presentation, I will give you a glimpse at one of the multitudes of ways they do this by creating a safe space for the participants in their after-school program. On a quick side note, this research is very near and dear to my heart because I am a former student at the after-school program. I was there from kindergarten to 8th grade. I was a participant in their teen program, and I've been working there for the past 5 years. And now, being able to come back full circle, just graduating from college a couple weeks ago, and entering graduate school in the fall, I hope that the long-term effects of what WECO does are visible through me. So sitting within the poorest congressional district in the entire United States, WECO's mission is to give the people of the Bronx access to all of the resources that create a thriving neighborhood. So this includes having access to healthy foods, cultural programming, early education, and a lot more. At WECO's after-school program, children are given free lunch as soon as they arrive. The focus of the presentation is on how WECO creates a safe space and what that looks like and means to the students. However, none of that could be achieved if kids are not given their bare necessities. WECO believes that every child deserves a healthy meal before anything else, and this is just one of the ways in which they create a safe space. So although the focus of the research was on WECO's after-school program as a whole, the perspective and opinions of some of the students within the program were absolutely crucial to better understanding what exactly WECO was doing right. If you could go to the slide where I got the pictures of the students. Yeah, there we go. Here are some of the amazing students that I was fortunate enough to work with on a day-to-day basis, and they participated in the interviews conducted by myself and my colleague, Nicole. And as you can see through the picture, students are required to wear face masks and socially distance throughout the building. However, we couldn't go without seeing some of their beautiful smiles. So one of the driving questions I asked to some of the kids was, what exactly does a safe space mean to you? For many of the students, this was a place where they were free of judgment. They felt comfortable, protected, and had the ability to be themselves. All of these qualities are brought out through the several aspects of what was programmed. So for some of the students, a safe space was a physical space, like a classroom where they were free to talk to other kids. To others, it was doing the activities that they enjoyed. These activities included gardening, chess, STEM programming, physical fitness, and many others. Lastly, for some students, a safe space had a lot to do with their relationship with the staff at WECO, which leads me to my next slide. Many of the staff at WECO consist of former students that were sitting in the same exact seats as the present-day students. The familiarity of the staff allows students to feel comfortable enough to open up and express themselves to their group leaders. For many students, seeing people who look like them, live in the same neighborhood as them, and have had a similar experience to them makes them feel represented, which in turn allows them to feel comfortable and feel like WECO is a safe space. And then last but not least, a motto that I personally adopted while doing this research is that I noticed that WECO found a way to have certainty within uncertainty. In a time of COVID, it is so hard to know where as a society we will be next. And that WECO experienced this firsthand. Having to shut down in-person programming multiple times because of COVID outbreaks within the school, WECO found a way to successfully get students to join remote programming whenever the school was closed. Many of the same activities were offered, many of the same staff were present, and everything was organized in a way where parents and students knew what to do if things got out of hand. And it's been a pleasure to represent WECO and show you what I've seen over the past couple of months. Here's our Instagram, Twitter, and website if you feel like connecting with us and getting to know more about WECO. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Nice, thank you, Mario. Hey, and Mario, did you say that you just graduated?
Yeah, I just graduated a couple weeks ago.
Woo!
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this short presentation. I know you can tell us much more about WECO. I remember that when we were in New York and we visited you guys, it really felt like a place of family and unity. So I'm so sorry that we cannot tap into much more of what you guys are doing over there. But yeah, check their socials. They're doing a great job. Thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you for listening.
So we have one more video, which is a showcase of Aracora from the Netherlands.
Hi everyone, it's Abid from Aracora Foundation right here in Amsterdam. I hope you're doing good. It's been a while and it's certainly a blessing to be here, still breathing, still living, and still doing what we love. I think it's been a real learning process for us, especially the last 2 years. It made us more creative as an organization. It made us more productive as an organization, and I think our work was needed even more than before. So it really changed our perspective on life, but also on the way that we work and our work ethics. So it was a very good time to focus on what we were doing and what we want to do and what we want to change in our work. We really see that things are changing also in society, so social media became a very important tool to connect with the youth and to get in touch with a lot of people. I think this view has become very familiar from a distance, having contact and having a lot of meetings on Zoom and Teams and stuff like that. So at the same time, it's a blessing that we, like I said, we're still alive and still doing what we are loving to do, and it was a very good learning process, and I think it really changed our perspective. At the same time, we made some developments working together with different organizations as a cohesion inside Amsterdam. to make our work more powerful, to add something to the table where other organizations maybe are lacking, or maybe the organizations add something to each other that they have different specialties, so we could add something to the table that the other organization doesn't have. So it makes us as a cohesion, makes us more powerful, and to work with our target group in a better way. I think I can talk for days, because to sum up everything that we've done in the last 2 years is quite a lot. But I want to take you again on what Aracora has been doing, and there's much more that we are doing. But in a nutshell, we're going to show you a video of our work in Amsterdam, and I hope to see you again in a better situation. I hope you're doing good, and that everyone is in good health. Take care of each other. My name is Abid Tunsi. This was Aracora.
Aracora is a youth foundation based in the western part of Amsterdam. Over the last decade, we as an organization provided tailor-made training programs to facilitate local marginalized youth by giving them an approachable way to identify their needs and improve their skills. We organize different activities for the youth to grow in their social development, allowing them to participate in playing soccer, inspiring them by using local role models to become aware of their own capacities. Aracora connects the youth to social organizations who on their turn provide support in finding education, employment, and can provide them with psychosocial support if needed. Aracora supports the youth to set a new score.
So nice. Thank you, Abid and Fatima, for the video of Aracora. Anita, how are you feeling?
I was feeling quite emotional seeing everybody again.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess, well, we had such a lovely start when we were in New York building the program, and it's so lovely to connect in this way and to see so much of the learning that has been going on. I think it's wonderful to see how this approach has led to a articulation of mechanisms and techniques. And it's fantastic to know that we can move forward with the program. So.
I really want to give you a hug right now.
Yeah, we'll do that later.
So we'll do that later. There's a question in Dutch. I'm going to ask it to you, okay, Anita?
Yeah.
Vraag aan de onderzoekers en de financiers. Is het mogelijk om het onderzoeksproject te verlengen, omdat de organisaties dan hun ervaringen / resultaten echt kunnen delen en ook samen door kunnen?
Yeah. So the question is whether we could, whether the project could last longer to have more sharing taking place. And this is exactly what we're hoping. So when we had planned the program, it was actually a plan for 4 years. 2 years is very short to do this kind of work. And the plan had been to be where we are right now, which is sharing mechanisms and techniques, but to build on that, to see how maybe some of these techniques, like what happened with Rambler, could be adopted elsewhere, or people might be interested in that. So we're just in the stage of articulating the mechanisms, the techniques of Confident Futures, and we really hope we can go on. We need funding for that, but we're working on it.
Okay. Well, I think Jason from Robert Wood Johnson was really pleased what he saw so far.
Yeah.
And Danny seems really enthused as well. And I know that Fleur from the municipality of Amsterdam was
we've had very generous
positive
support.
as well. So maybe we can fix something. Okay. Reina, quick question. Can you describe in one word Confident Future program?
Optimism.
Oh, wow. It was possible to describe it in one word?
In the midst of such incredibly unprecedented challenges and the very, very usual challenges that poverty, racism, anti-immigrants, anti-Islam, you name it, all of those challenges are ongoing. And then the unprecedented nature of the pandemic and its very absolutely usual effects on taking life and health from the communities that least, the most vulnerable communities that least have the resources to face it, to watch these young people work, to watch these community organizations work, to understand that, envisioning a possible future that we've been talking about, yes, optimism in the face of profound challenge. And we all could use a little bit of that right now. So thank you all to our community partners.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Well, it was a pleasure to be the moderator of this program. I want to give a big hand to the research team from New York and Amsterdam. And all the youth initiatives who participated during this program. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you want to see more of this kind of programs, check the website dezwijger.nl, and it's possible to pay as you like. My name is Dion, I'm from Easy Solutions. Mijn naam is dus Dion, ik ben van Easy Solutions. En ik wens jullie allemaal een fijne avond. Take care.